The head of state has reached an agreement to deploy troops in a certain number of countries, including Ivory Coast. It's not a question of war. It's a question of ensuring Niger returns to its constitutional rule. The coup leaders can decide to leave tomorrow morning, and there will not be military intervention.
Well, ECOWAS is still saying it hopes for a diplomatic solution. Europe and the US reiterating calls to find a peaceful path to resolve this. Meanwhile, the UN has voiced fears for the health of President Mohamed Bazoum. Let's bring in our international affairs editor, Philip Turle. So we've just heard the rhetoric there. They've got until tomorrow morning to resolve this. There's been dithering, delay. What are they now doing?
Right, well, let's not believe that we're going to see military intervention in the next few hours. I don't think that's going to happen. I think what we're seeing here is increased pressure on the military junta in Niger to come to the negotiating table, and this is just another force of dissuasion that is being stacked on the others, notably the sanctions and the cutting off of electricity into the country. What ECOWAS is doing is saying, all right, we've been diligent with you, we gave you time, we've given you the benefit of the doubt, you haven't decided to come forward to the negotiating table at all to try to work out a solution to all of this. Therefore, now we have no other option but to create this standby force, which we will use if we have to. But right the way down the line, Gavin, this has been a last resort. They still want to bring the military leaders to the negotiating table. I think that the standby force will be created. You have to remember that in West Africa, there's no army ready to intervene regularly where it's needed. This is an army that's put together by different countries which are willing to supply troops. This time round, we've got Nigeria, which will supply most of those troops, but that also come from Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire. Alassane Ouattara, the president there, has said that he is very willing to provide as many troops as needed to this force. They'll also come from Benin, which has said that it is willing to provide the forces, but it's not going to be made up anytime quickly. And although there have been meetings this week by defence ministers of ECOWAS, this emergency meeting yesterday, it's still going to take a while before that force is up and running and ready to intervene. But the message is definitely there to the junta leaders that they need to come to the negotiating table pretty quickly if there's going to be any kind of diplomatic solution to the coup in Niger.
It seems to be very limited diplomatic oxygen here. The words sort of between a rock and a hard place spring to mind for the ECOWAS group that are trying to work out a strategy. Meanwhile, the US, the EU saying actually a peaceful dialogue is the way forward, and then nothing coming from the junta in any sense of reconciliation.
No, I think the junta is sticking to its guns. It doesn't appear to want to come to the negotiating table at all, despite various attempts by ECOWAS and even the international community. Victoria Nuland, the Deputy Secretary of State, went there. She wasn't allowed to meet with General Chiani, the coup leader in Niger. So there hasn't been much dialogue this week, just one meeting with a spiritual leader from northern Nigeria, from Kano State, who was the former governor of the Nigerian Central Bank. But he was not on a diplomatic mission from ECOWAS. He just went there as a private citizen and is not a spokesperson for any group. So the situation as far as dialogue is blocked. Now, on the international issue, many people are saying, well, the United Nations will get involved, the United States up to a certain limit will get involved, the European Union and France also back this military intervention. That also is not quite so easy if one looks at the fact that if the UN is going to get involved, it may have to go through the UN Security Council. There may have to be a vote there on how that involvement is going to take place. Will that vote go through? Will it be vetoed by Russia or by China for a question of rivalry in Africa? That we don't know for the moment, but that is a strong possibility. Russia and China are both permanent members of the UN Security Council. So it's all looking quite complicated as far as trying to draw up international support. And there are other countries that have said they're dead against this force, notably Algeria, Chad, Burkina Faso, and of course Mali, which were former members of ECOWAS that have been kicked out and which are now under the military juntas themselves. So there's no cohesive policy for all countries in West Africa to get together to create this force. There's still a lot of differences between different countries, which makes the drawing up even more complicated.
It's a very good point, actually, you make about Mali, Burkina Faso, and military regimes there. There were some analysts suggesting that perhaps if President Tinubu of Nigeria would have spoken to these first, maybe it could have made a difference. We will not know. Philip, just another brief word as well, because inside Niamey, in the capital in Niger, the military regime has already installed its new cabinet, now calling for people to take to the streets.
Well, I think that people will take to the streets, basically because many of them are being offered money to do that. But that doesn't mean the whole country backs the junta. There is still a huge difference of opinion between those who are for and those who are against and those who are suffering in Niger as a result of all of this.
Great context, as usual. Philip Turle, our international affairs editor. Thank you.